The night I met him, my world shattered in a scream of glass and blood. I was running, always running, from a life that never fit, when his amber eyes locked onto mine, promising eternity in a single glance. Now, I'm caught in a dance with a vampire king, and every step pulls me deeper into his shadowed heart. New Orleans thrummed with life, its streets a chaotic symphony of jazz and laughter, but I felt like a ghost drifting through it. My name is Elias Navarro, 25, a barista with no family, no roots, and a heart bruised by too many fleeting loves. I'd come to this city hoping to find myself, but all I found were late-night shifts in a studio apartment that smelled of damp wood and regret. That night, I was walking home from Café du Monde, the scent of beignets still clinging to my jacket, when I heard it, a low, guttural snarl from the alley. My sneakers froze on the cracked pavement. I should have kept walking. I knew better. But curiosity, that reckless spark, pulled me toward the shadows. There he was, crouched over a figure slumped against the brick wall. The man, tall, sharp-jawed, with hair like midnight, moved with a predator's grace. His lips were stained red, and his eyes, glowing amber, snapped to mine. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but he was faster. In a blink, he stood before me, his presence a cold weight pressing against my chest. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, like velvet laced with steel. His name, I'd learn later, was Cassian Devereux, 27 in appearance but centuries older, a vampire king who ruled the underbelly of this city. His pale skin seemed to drink the moonlight, and his gaze pinned me like a butterfly to a board. I didn't see anything. I stammered, my voice betraying me. But I had seen. The body at his feet, the blood pooling like spilled ink. My mind screamed to run, but my feet wouldn't move. Cassian tilted his head, studying me. "You're lying," he murmured, stepping closer. His breath was cool against my cheek, and I caught a faint scent of iron and cedar. "But you're not afraid." "Not entirely." He was right. Fear coiled in my gut, but there was something else, a pull, like gravity, drawing me to him. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt alive. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible over the distant hum of Bourbon Street. His lips curved, not quite a smile. "Someone who could end you or save you." He reached out, his fingers brushing my jaw, and my skin burned where he touched. "What's your name, little mortal?" "Elias," I said, too quickly, like he'd pulled the word from my throat. "Elias," he repeated, savoring it. "You're different. I can feel it." His eyes darkened, and for a moment, I swore I saw something human flicker in them. Loneliness, maybe, or longing. Before I could respond, a shout echoed from the alley's mouth. Flashlights cut through the dark, and Cassian's expression hardened. "Go," he said, shoving me gently but firmly toward the street. "Don't look back." I ran, my pulse a wild drumbeat, but his voice lingered, wrapping around my thoughts like smoke. I didn't know it then, but that moment was the beginning, the spark that would ignite a fire I couldn't escape. The next few days were a blur of paranoia and obsession. I couldn't stop thinking about him. Cassian. His name felt like a secret I wasn't meant to know. I scoured the internet for anything about vampires in New Orleans, but all I found were tourist traps and ghost stories. Still, I felt him watching me. At work, I'd catch a shadow moving too fast outside the cafe window. At night, my dreams were filled with amber eyes and a voice that called my name. On the fourth night, I found a note slipped under my apartment door. No name, just a single line in elegant, looping script. "Meet me at St. Louis Cathedral. Midnight." My hands shook as I read it. Every rational part of me screamed to stay away, but my heart, stupid, reckless heart, had other plans. The cathedral loomed like a sentinel against the night sky, its spires sharp and ghostly. I stood in Jackson Square, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and river mud, when Cashin appeared. He moved like he owned the night, his black coat billowing slightly as he approached. "You came," he said, sounding almost surprised. His eyes softened, just for a moment, before they hardened again. "You shouldn't have. Then why invite me?" I shot back, my voice steadier than I felt. He stepped closer, and I could feel the air shift, charged with something unspoken. "Because I can't stay away from you," he said, his voice raw. "And that's a problem." My breath caught. I wanted to ask what he meant, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I asked, "What are you, Cashin?" "Really?" He hesitated, then said, "I'm a monster. A king of monsters. And you're a complication I didn't expect." Before I could respond, a low growl rumbled from the shadows. Cashin's head snapped up, his body tensing. "They're here," he muttered, grabbing my arm. "Run." "Who's here?" I demanded, but he was already pulling me toward the cathedral's side entrance. Footsteps echoed behind us, too fast, too heavy to be human. My heart pounded as we slipped inside, the heavy doors slamming shut behind us. In the dim glow of candlelight, Cashin pressed me against the wall, his body shielding mine. "Stay quiet," he whispered, his lips brushing my ear. My pulse raced, not just from fear but from the heat of him, the way his hand lingered on my wrist. "Who's after us?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. "My enemies," he said. "Vampires who want my throne. And now, they know about you." "Why me?" I asked, my mind spinning. His eyes met mine, intense and unreadable. "Because you're mine," he said, the words a vow and a curse. "And they'll use you to get to me." In that moment, I didn't know if I was more afraid of the danger outside or the way my heart leapt at his words. All I knew was that I was already too deep in his world, and there was no turning back. The cathedral's silence was a lie, heavy with the threat of what hunted us. Cashin's grip on my wrist was firm, his eyes scanning the shadows as if he could see through the stone walls. My heart thudded so loudly I was sure it would give us away. "Stay close," he whispered, leading me down a narrow staircase to a crypt below the cathedral. The air grew colder, thick with the scent of earth and ancient stone. I wanted to ask 100 questions. Why me? Why now? What did he mean by mine? But the urgency in his movement silenced me. At the bottom of the stairs, he pressed a hidden panel, and a section of the wall slid open, revealing a tunnel lit by flickering torches. "This city has secrets even older than me," Cashin said, his voice low. "Keep up, Elias." We moved quickly, the tunnel twisting deeper underground. My sneakers scuffed against the damp stone, and I struggled to match his pace. "Who's after you?" I finally asked, my voice echoing in the dark. "Not me," he said, glancing back. "Us. The Coven of the Crescent wants my crown, and they'll kill anyone who gets in their way, including you." "Why do they care about me?" I pressed, my breath ragged. "I'm nobody." He stopped so suddenly I nearly crashed into him. Turning, he cupped my face in his hands, his touch cool but electric. "You're not nobody," he said, his voice fierce. "I felt it the moment I saw you. Your soul calls to me. It's rare, Elias. Dangerous." I stared into his amber eyes, caught between fear and a reckless thrill. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. "It means you're tied to me now," he said, "whether you like it or not." Before I could process that, a crash echoed behind us. Cashin cursed, pulling me into a side alcove just as 3 figures appeared at the tunnel's end. They were pale, their eyes glowing like coals, and their movements were too fluid, too predatory. "Vampires." "Cashin Devereux," one of them hissed, a woman with silver hair and a cruel smile. "You've been careless." bringing a mortal into our world. Leave him out of this, Seraphine, Cashin snarled, stepping in front of me. Your fight is with me. She laughed, sharp and cold. Oh, but he's so much more than a mortal now, isn't he? We can smell your claim on him. My stomach dropped. Claim? What the hell did that mean? I grabbed Cashin's arm, my voice low. What is she talking about? He didn't look at me, his jaw tight. Not now, Elias. Seraphine's eyes gleamed as she stepped closer. Did he tell you, little human? When a vampire king claims a soul, it's forever. You're his now, bound by blood and fate. I felt like the ground had vanished beneath me. Cashin's hand tightened on mine, but he didn't deny her words. Instead, he faced her, his voice deadly calm. Touch him, and I'll burn your coven to ash. The air crackled with tension, and then Seraphine lunged. Cashin moved faster, shoving me back as he met her attack. The other two vampires circled, their fangs glinting in the torchlight. I pressed against the wall, my heart racing, searching for anything to defend myself. My hand closed around a loose stone, and without thinking, I hurled it at one of the vampires. It struck his shoulder, barely slowing him, but it was enough to draw his attention. Stupid boy, he growled, stalking toward me. Cashin roared, tackling the vampire to the ground. The fight was a blur, claws, fangs, and blood splattering the stone. I wanted to help, but I was frozen, useless. Then I saw it, a rusted iron rod protruding from the wall. I yanked it free, my hands shaking, and swung it at the second vampire as he lunged for Cashin's back. The rod connected with a sickening crunch, and he staggered, hissing. Cashin glanced at me, a flicker of pride in his eyes. Not bad, little mortal. But Seraphine was relentless. She slashed at Cashin, her claws tearing through his coat. He stumbled, blood dripping from a gash on his arm. My chest tightened. Vampires could bleed? Could they die? Run, Elias! Cashin shouted, blocking another strike. I didn't want to leave him, but his voice was a command I couldn't ignore. I bolted down the tunnel, my lungs burning, until I stumbled into a cavern lit by a single chandelier. It was surreal, like stepping into a forgotten ballroom, with velvet drapes and a marble floor cracked by time. I hid behind a pillar, my breath ragged, listening for footsteps. Minutes passed, maybe hours, until Cashin appeared, bloodied but alive. He collapsed against the wall, his chest heaving. He nodded, but his eyes were haunted. They're gone. For now. I knelt beside him, my hands hovering, unsure. What did she mean, Cashin? About me being claimed? He looked away, his jaw tight. When I touched you that first night, I felt something. A bond. It's rare, even for my kind. It means you're part of me now. My strength, my weakness. I swallowed hard, my mind reeling. So I'm what? Your property. No, he said fiercely, grabbing my hand. You're my equal, my heart. But it makes you a target. His words hit me like a tidal wave. I wanted to be angry, to demand answers, but the way he looked at me, raw, vulnerable, stopped me. Instead, I leaned closer, my forehead brushing his. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for centuries. You should, he said, but his hand tightened on mine, pulling me closer. In that moment, with the world crumbling around us, I felt it too. The bond, the pull. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and I knew I'd follow him into the dark, no matter the cost. The cavern felt like a sanctuary, but I knew it was a cage. Cashin's hand lingered in mine, his touch anchoring me as my mind spun with questions. I was bound to a vampire king, hunted by his enemies, and yet, all I could think about was the warmth in his eyes when he looked at me. We can't stay here, he said, pulling me to my feet. His coat was torn, blood staining the fabric, but he moved with the same lethal grace. The coven will find us. Where do we go? I asked, my voice steadier now. Fear still gnawed at me, but something stronger was growing. Trust, maybe, or something deeper. There's a safe house in the bayou, he said. It's hidden, warded. We'll be safe there until I can deal with Seraphine. The journey to the bayou was a blur of stolen cars and moonlit roads. Cashin drove, his hands steady on the wheel, but I could see the tension in his jaw. I wanted to ask about the bond, about what it meant for us, but the silence between us felt fragile, like it might shatter if I spoke. The safe house was a crumbling plantation house, half swallowed by moss and vines. Inside, it was surprisingly warm, with mismatched furniture and shelves lined with dusty books. Cashin lit a fire, the glow casting shadows across his sharp features. Sit, he said, gesturing to a worn couch. You need rest. I need answers, I countered, crossing my arms. You keep saying I'm yours, but what does that mean, Cashin? Am I just bait? A liability. He flinched, like I'd struck him. You're not a liability, he said, stepping closer. You're everything. The bond, it's not something I chose. It just happened. The moment I saw you, I knew you were different. Your soul, Elias, it's like a flame in the dark. I've lived centuries, and I've never felt anything like it. My throat tightened. So what happens now? Am I stuck with you forever? His lips twitched, almost a smile. Would that be so bad? I wanted to laugh, to break the tension, but the weight of his words pressed against me. Instead, I reached out, my fingers brushing his cheek. His skin was cool, but it sent a jolt through me, like touching a live wire. I'm not afraid of you, I said softly, but I'm afraid of losing myself. He closed his eyes, leaning into my touch. I won't let that happen, he promised. I'll protect you, even from me. The fire crackled, and for a moment, it was just us. No vampires, no danger, just two souls tangled in something bigger than either of us. I leaned in, my lips brushing his, tentative at first, then desperate. He kissed me back, his hands framing my face, and it was like drowning in starlight, beautiful, overwhelming, eternal. But eternity is a lie when you're hunted. The window shattered, glass spraying like diamonds, and Seraphine's voice cut through the night. How sweet, she sneered, stepping through the wreckage with two more vampires at her side. The king and his pet. Cashin shoved me behind him, his fangs bared. You're persistent, Seraphine. And you're weak, she spat. A king who falls for a mortal? Pathetic. The fight was brutal, faster than my eyes could follow. Cashin moved like a storm, tearing through one vampire. But Seraphine was relentless, her claws raking across his chest. I grabbed a fire poker, swinging it wildly, but the third vampire caught my arm, twisting until I cried out. Elias, Cashin roared, his voice raw with panic. He broke free, tackling my attacker, but Seraphine seized the moment, driving a blade into his side. He staggered, blood pooling at his feet. No, I screamed, wrenching free and throwing myself at Seraphine. I had no plan, no strength to match hers, but I couldn't let her take him. My fist connected with her jaw, more surprise than force, and she stumbled, laughing. Brave little human, she said, grabbing my throat. Maybe I'll keep you as a trophy. Cashin's hand closed around her wrist, twisting until she released me. You'll have to kill me first, he growled, his voice weak but defiant. She smirked. That can be arranged. But before she could strike, a low hum filled the air, like a heartbeat amplified. The walls trembled, and a wave of energy knocked Seraphine back. Cashin's eyes widened, and he looked at me, stunned. Elias, that was you. What? I gasped, my hands shaking. I hadn't done anything. Or had I? The bond, he said, his voice hoarse. It's stronger than I thought. You're amplifying my power. Seraphine recovered, her eyes blazing. This changes nothing, she hissed. but there was fear in her voice now. She retreated, her lackeys following, leaving us in the wreckage of the safe house. Cashin collapsed, and I caught him, easing him to the floor. "Stay with me," I pleaded, tearing my shirt to press against his wound. "You can't leave me now." His hand found mine, weak but steady. "I'm not going anywhere," he whispered, his eyes locked on mine. "Not without you." As the fire died, I held him, my heart torn between fear and hope. The bond was changing me, tying me to his darkness, but I wasn't sure I wanted to be free. Not if it meant losing him. Cashin's blood stained my hands, warm and sticky, a stark reminder that even immortals could break. The safe house was a ruin, the air thick with dust and the echo of Seraphine's retreat. I held him close, my pulse a frantic rhythm against his stillness. "You're going to be okay," I said, more to convince myself than him. His eyes fluttered open, amber and fierce despite the pain. "I've survived worse," he rasped, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "But you're something else, Elias." I didn't know what he meant, not fully, but the weight of the bond pulsed between us, alive and undeniable. Whatever I'd done, whatever power had surged through me to drive Seraphine back, it was tied to him, to us, and it terrified me as much as it thrilled me. "We need to move," I said, helping him to his feet. He leaned on me, his weight heavy but grounding. "Where do we go now?" "There's one place she won't follow," he said. "The old crypt in the Garden District. It's sacred ground. Even the coven respects it." The journey was slow, Cashin's strength fading with every step. By the time we reached the crypt, hidden behind a crumbling mausoleum, dawn was breaking, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. I helped him inside, the air cool and heavy with the scent of moss and thyme. The crypt was small, lined with stone benches and a single altar. Cashin sank onto one, his breathing shallow. "You need blood," I said, remembering the alley, the way he'd fed. The thought made my stomach twist, but I couldn't lose him. "No," he said, his voice firm despite his weakness. "Not from you. Never from you." "Why not?" I asked, kneeling beside him. "If it saves you, I don't care." He cupped my face, his touch gentle. "Because I love you," he said, the words raw and unguarded. "And I won't let this bond destroy you." My heart stopped, then raced. Love. He'd said it, and it felt like the world shifted. "I love you too," I whispered, the truth spilling out before I could stop it. "And I'm not letting you die." Before he could protest, I pressed my wrist to his lips. "Drink," I said, my voice steady. "Please." He hesitated, his eyes searching mine, then closed them, his fangs grazing my skin. The pain was sharp but brief, replaced by a warmth that spread through me, like our bond was weaving us closer. His strength returned, his grip tightening, and when he pulled back, his eyes were brighter, his wounds healing. "You're reckless," he said, but there was no anger in his voice, only awe. "You're worth it," I replied, my head spinning from the blood loss, but my heart full. We stayed in the crypt, hidden from the world, as he told me everything. His centuries as a king, the wars he'd fought, the loneliness that had carved him hollow until he found me. I told him about my own scars, the foster homes, the ache of never belonging. With every word, the bond deepened, not just magic, but something human, something real. But peace was fleeting. That night, Seraphine found us. She came alone, her silver hair glowing under the moonlight, her eyes blazing with desperation. "You can't win, Cashin," she said, standing at the crypt's entrance. "The coven will never accept a king who loves a mortal." "Then they'll have no king," Cashin said, standing tall despite his wounds. "I choose him." Her laughter was bitter. "You'd throw away your throne for this boy?" "He's more than you'll ever understand," Cashin said, his voice steady. And I'll die before I let you touch him. Seraphine lunged, but this time I was ready. The bond surged, a wave of power I didn't fully understand, and I pushed it outward, a shield of light that knocked her back. Cashin stared at me, stunned, then joined me, his own power amplifying mine. Together, we drove her to her knees. Leave, I said, my voice trembling but firm. Or we end this now. She glared at us, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. She fled, vanishing into the night, and I knew we'd won, for now. Cashin pulled me close, his lips finding mine in a kiss that tasted of blood and promises. You're incredible, he murmured, his forehead against mine. So are you, I said, my heart full. But what now? He smiled, a real smile, soft and unguarded. We live, together, no matter what comes. The days that followed were a dance of danger and love. The coven retreated, but we knew they'd return. Cashin taught me to harness the bond, to wield its power, and I taught him to laugh, to find joy in the mortal world he'd forgotten. We were hunted, but we were free, bound not just by blood but by choice. In the end, I realized forever wasn't about eternity. It was about every moment we stole together, every touch, every glance. Cashin was my darkness, my light, and I was his. And no matter what the future held, we'd face it side by side. Two souls claimed by love, unbreakable in the shadows.